it's Retro 1053 again. Unfortunately, looks like I was a little premature on declaring this drive to be fixed. Let me show you what it's doing now. So as I showed before, it works for reading diskettes that were made on my 1050 drive, and this is actually a commercial diskette. So all that works. But then I took and tried to format a disk. Let's pick initialize, drive 1, XF551, start. And that's what I get. If I choose initialize, drive 1, single-sided double density, that works. Okay. In testing this earlier, I found that ASCII, as it's left on longer, it quits even initializing the other modes as it heats up, so I don't know what's going on there. So my next step will be to take it apart, take the drive mechanism and hook it to my PC Junior again, and try formatting there and everything. So I need to determine, is it the drive mechanism or is it the circuit board again? I suspect it's another problem with the circuit board, but to be sure, I'd hate to spend a lot of time on that and then find out that I have like a bad, it could be a bad head on the this drive, which would be the top head, is why I won't do double-sided disc. So that's all for now. Okay, I have the drive mechanism hooked to my PC Junior, as you can see. So now, let's zoom in on the screen. So as you can see, the drive mechanism works perfectly, which is good news. I didn't want to have to try finding another one of those. So it's back to the circuit board, more later. Here's what I have set up. I have a splitter cable connected to the drive power connector so I can monitor voltages while using the drive. I also have the temperature probe of my multimeter taped to the heat sink so I can look at that. I am going to format a disk multiple times while monitoring the 5-volt rail and watch how the voltage responds. I will discuss what I have done between the end of the first video and now while doing so. drive I have set to 2, so that's B. I'm going to set density to high, to double, tracks 40 double-sided, so you see 360K disc, format, and there's formatting 1. I believe I finally have the drive fully fixed. Let me take you through some of the things I did to accomplish the repair. First, I determined that DOS-XE won't format double-sided, double-density disk on this drive. I tried with Atari ROM 7.7 as well as the HyperROM FX I bought. I even burned an EEPROM with the HyperFX code, and that didn't work either. Then one day I was going through my box of Atari discs and found that I had a copy of Spartadox 3.2G. It formatted double-sided, double-density disk with no problem. Yes, the drive does work. I have since managed to put Spartadox X on my A8 PicoCart, and it will format disk in all of the formats the XF551 supports. While this was great, the issue of formatting failing after drive heated up remained. I spent a lot of time looking at and reflowing solder joints and swapping the socketed chips. None of that helped, though I did learn that the cheap sockets I bought aren't very reliable. I would change them, but I am afraid of doing more damage to the board. At this point, I was sort of stuck. But then one morning I woke up thinking I should check the voltage rails under load. I was thinking the 12-volt line might be sagging as the heatsink heated up. I used a splitter to be able to monitor the voltage with the lid mostly on. I found that the 12-volt line was fine, so I switched to the 5-volt line. When I first started measuring, of course it was somewhat heated up because of my checking the 12-volt line, it was at about 4.6 volts. The drive would format just fine. As I repeatedly formatted double-sided double-density, the voltage would sag more and more. When it reached about 4.3 volts, formatting failed. The only new 7805s I had were the same as I had installed before, so I reinstalled the one I took out. The new ones are 7805 CVs, rated at 1 amp output, 1.5 amps with heatsink. The old one is an LM 7805ML. I could not find any data on it. I think it is either rated for higher amperage or doesn't have overcurrent and over temperature protection like the L7805 CV. I have done a little research and found that L78S05s are rated at 2 amps and L78T05s are rated at 3 amps. I would recommend use of one of these variants if you have to replace it. Now let's see what the voltage on 5-volt rail is doing as I use the drive. Okay, that was the 3rd time. I'll probably speed up from here while I do it a few more times. Okay, I believe that was 10 times formatting, unless I lost count. And while it sags during use, you can see it comes back, you know, when idle. So That's much better. So let's look at the heatsink temperature now. Okay, 43 degrees centigrade, which isn't terrible, but all the electrolytic capacitors are inside that the heatsink, sort of a box that the heatsink makes. So I still don't like that kind of temperature. I believe it was actually getting hotter than that with the L7805CB in there, because I mean, I couldn't touch it for more than a split second without burning myself. So now I want to move this to the bench and show you what I came up with to try to keep it cool. I decided to buy a 30 millimeter 5-volt fan and 3D printed bracket for me. Let me show you what I came up with, and then we will check the heatsink temperature with the fan installed. Here's the bracket with the fan installed on it. This is blowing air into the heatsink. I looked around the boards to find places to get 5 volts and ground for the fan. These two wires here are both 5 volts. So I used a right angle pin header like this. Removed the plastic and soldered it between the wires right there. It was not easy to do, but it is firmly affixed. I started to do the same thing with the ground wire, but then it occurred to me that I could use the screw that holds down the heatsink because it is grounded right there. I simply made a loop in the wire for the screw to go through and stripped a little insulation off the other end. The wire fan plugs securely onto the pin header and the wire. I will assemble the drive and then we can check the temperature again. And that was the 9th format. Let's do it one more time. Like, as you can see, though, the temperature is a little bit better. Truthfully, didn't do as much good as I hoped, but I think that's still much better. You wouldn't normally do this, you know, formatting 10 discs in a row with no break or anything, so this is probably an extreme case of how hot it would get. So let me go over some lessons I learned by doing this drive. 1. Don't declare anything fixed until all functions have been tested with it fully warmed up. I shouldn't have assumed that just being able to read a directory meant it was fixed. Voltage should be checked before applying load if possible. This is to prevent other voltage damage to the components. Then voltages should be rechecked under full load after reaching operating temperature. That's what I failed to do. I learned there are multiple DOS versions and the XF551 ROMs available. They don't always play well with each other. I like the HyperFX ROM and SpartaDocs X combination. especially since I have the A8 Pico cart to put DOS on. I do plan on doing a video on the various DOS versions soon. During troubleshooting, I bought a Logic IC tester and learned to use it, so that's a positive. To investigate the ROM versions, I bought an EEPROM programmer and learned to use that. I also learned that the EEPROM programmer can test Logic ICs, so I probably don't need the Logic IC tester. It may be capable of testing more ICs than the programmer, I don't know, so I keep them both. And that's pretty much it for this episode. If you have any interest in this topic, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. That is all for now. Goodbye and have a great day.